Ambassador Mike Huckabee, the guy who goes and hangs out with the Israelis, sent a letter to them, and the Times of Israel called it a threatening letter from Mike Huckabee. And he is not happy about this. And this is curious because we've seen a lot of Mike Huckabee and a lot of love for Israel, a lot of love for Israel from the administration and from the ambassador in particular. I see him all over Fox News, showing up on commercials saying, we love Israel and all the things. And so for him to send a letter that Israel calls threatening, or the Times of Israel calls threatening, is a curious development. Now that, plus we had the Pope come out. So Catholics everywhere listening to the Pope, lots of Catholics, billion plus, a Pope coming down, and now also castigating Israel. And so we've got the US and the Pope, a lot of other energy coming up saying that we've got some questions about what Israel is doing after they took out a church in Gaza and other things. We now have Huckabee also sending this in. So here's what the Times of Israel says. Huckabee's threatening letter says, if you don't comply, Israel, we will warn Christians to reconsider visiting your country. Their goodwill is being met with hostility by Israel. Now, there's a letter that was sent this week, and it went to Interior Minister called Moshe Arbel. Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador, who ran for president historically and is an evangelical Christian, sent a letter to them. And it is now out, and we've got our hands on a copy of it, courtesy of the Times of Israel. And so here is what Mike Huckabee said to the embassy, or from the embassy of the United States of America in Jerusalem, Israel. This is from Mike Huckabee, writing this in a letter over to Mr. Minister. It says, all right, dear Mr. Israeli Minister, it is with great stress that I write to you my profound disappointment that the meeting held in your office has not resulted in what I hoped to be a simple resolution of the issue of routine granting of visas for Christian organizations and workers, as has been practiced for decades. Now, I left the meeting with a very positive feeling, says Mike Huckabee, that we had resolved the issue that necessitated that meeting in the first place. We showed up, we shook hands, I left. It had appeared that a staffing change in the Ministry of Interior in Israel resulted in an employee changing the long practice process of granting visas to Christian organizations, a list of which is enclosed. Okay, you guys have done this for a long time. You hired somebody else. Everything reversed. They said no more Christian visas. Get out. And they thought, okay, so this should fix it. Thanks for the nice meeting, Israelis. We appreciate it. Thanks for hosting us. Have a nice day. But the actual truth is the situation has actually gotten worse. As of the beginning of 2025, the visa department arbitrarily ceased honoring the recommendations of the Ministry of Religious Affairs and has initiated an independent investigation into each of the evangelical organizations. So now, not just stamping them, we're going to investigate them to ascertain whether or not they should be recognized as religious institutions and continue receiving visas. So opening up investigations into, I guess, what these foreign organizations want to do in their country, which is interesting. What are these Christians doing in our country, like coming in here with organizational power and maybe exercising influence in our nation? They want to keep tabs on. Maybe we should do that here. Now, this includes many historic organizations such as the Baptist Convention of Israel, the Christian Missionary Alliance, Assemblies of God, etc., some of whom have been active here since 1948. Now, the vast majority of them have headquarters in the United States. They have all been required to fill out extensive questionnaires regarding their religious beliefs. You believe Jesus Christ, their activities, their assets in Israel, and all the things. And to the best of my knowledge, says Huckabee, none of them have received new A3 clergy visas since the beginning of the year, as they are all, quote, under investigation. And this is one of the most holy, this is maybe the holiest place on the whole planet. And so if Christians want to go visit there, you would expect our great ally to let them come in here. But no. As a solution, Mike Huckabee says, we simply requested that the visa department return to the status quo and recognize the recommendations of the Ministry of Religious Affairs, which is its own department. Okay, so your own government is saying these people should come in, but another branch is now wanting to investigate them. Huckabee says, there are a handful of Protestant evangelical educational institutions active in Israel, such as the Anglican School under the Israel Trust of the Anglican Church, the IBEX from Masters University, the University of Holy Land, and the Jerusalem University College, because they are all affiliated with churches or are something, so we might be missing a page there, or are what. Then it goes on. This came over directly from Times of Israel, so I don't know if they left a page out or what. But the close partnership between the United States and Israel government is at an all-time high, having just concluded a joint military operation where we bombed for that will hopefully curtail the threat from an Iranian nuclear ambition. After all of this nice work that we did with you, now you're going to not allow Christians to come in and access the most holiest land ever from our greatest ally? Huckabee says, for our formal and cordial official request from U.S. Embassy Jerusalem to return to the status quo of long-standing practices regarding visas, only to be rebuffed and made worse, is shock, a source of inexplicable disappointment. They're like, oh, you don't want to be investigated? Sure, we won't investigate you anymore. Shake hands, leave. They investigate you harder. Okay, double down. Go get him even harder. Stabbed him in the back. Now, let me reiterate that we are not asking for special or out of the ordinary treatment. We are simply requesting that the long-standing policy that has been employed for generations be continued. And it is the abrupt change and the additional burden and expense that has been imposed without explanation that we find bewildering. Wow, Mike Huckabee, this letter, he just became an instant anti-Semite and Hamas supporter, didn't he? The United States and evangelical Christian organizations are your friend. Are we? We feel we are being treated as adversaries. Well, that might be true. Yeah, that might be the truth of it. Yeah, maybe that for a reason, Mike. As the U.S. ambassador representing the United States and President Donald J. Trump, I am formally requesting that this deteriorated relationship with the Interior Ministry be resolved so that the issue is not further escalated, punks. It would be very unfortunate that our embassy, says Mike, would have to publicly announce throughout the United States, which we're doing now, that the state of Israel is no longer welcoming Christian organizations, wow, and their representatives, and is instead engaging in harassment and negative treatment towards organizations with long-standing relationships and positive involvement towards Zionism and friendship to the Jewish people in the state of Israel. That would be a shame if we had to say this, we weren't friends anymore, wouldn't it be? Now, we would further be obligated to warn Christians in America that their generous distributions to organizations to promote goodwill in Israel, which I have seen Mike Huckabee on Fox News constantly with this stuff. Our friends in Israel, give them some money, give them some money. Fox News has a bunch of ads for like elderly Israelis, okay? Like they need you in a time of donate to elderly Israelis who need some money. It's like constantly. I see it all day. So that's going to be interesting if that relationship has to change. Are being met with hostility, Christians, and that tourists should reconsider travel to this region until this situation is resolved with clarity from our greatest allies, yeah. Now, finally, Mike Huckabee, and most regrettably, if the government of Israel continues to cause the expense and bureaucratic harassment for the granting of routine visas that for decades have been routine, I will have no other choice than to instruct our consular section to review options for reciprocal treatment of Israeli citizens seeking visas to the United States. Surely, this is not the relationship the state of Israel wishes to have with its best partner and friend on the planet. I guess. And what we're seeing in response to this, which is just bewildering indeed,